Welcome to Season 4 of the Healthy Living Doesn't Have to Suck podcast. My name is Melyssa With A, your hype woman for health, double board certified lifestyle medicine coach, and size inclusive fitness specialist. This podcast was created to help educate, empower, and inspire you to engage in healthy lifestyle behaviors to help you feel your best. Because when we change our habits, we can change our lives. And when we change our lives, we can change the world. Through solo episodes and special guest expert interviews, we are on a mission to make the healthy choice the easy choice. Thanks so much for tuning in, and welcome to the Changemaker community. Welcome back, Changemakers. I am so excited to introduce you to our guest today. We have Dr. Drmorganfrancis on with us, and she is an eating disorder therapist. I followed her content for quite some time on Instagram, so I'm really grateful to have her on to share messages about how we can better change our relationships with our bodies through our lifestyle change journeys, and just ways to kind of say fuck it to diet culture, because there's so many messages that we have been bombarded with over the years that might be holding us back from achieving a healthy lifestyle that lasts. So Dr. Morgan, thank you so much for spending your time with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to this conversation. What a great topic for us to get into.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would love for maybe some of our audience who hasn't had a chance to meet you yet, if you could just give us a little bit of your background, the work that you do, and maybe some of the things that you enjoy in your off work times.
Absolutely. So, like you said, my name is Dr. Drmorganfrancis, and I live in Scottsdale, Arizona. And this is where my private practice is. It's called Scottsdale Premier Counseling. And I work with individuals, couples, and families. And I provide therapy. And really, clients come to see me that are looking to have just a better understanding of themselves and have more of a real approach to therapy. I think that therapy can have a lot of stigma to it. And
Mhm.
my goal is to truly break through those stigmas around our mental health. Obviously, our mental health means everything to us, and it's so important. And I will work with individuals that are struggling with, like you said earlier, eating disorders, body image,
Mm.
grief, and anxiety or depression, trauma. I also work a lot with sexual health. So I do see a lot of men. So it's not just women that I work with.
Yeah.
And I'm a mother. I have 3 children, and I'm married, and we have a black lab. So
Oh,
all,
I love
all the
that.
busy things.
That's amazing. And what kind of drew your interest over into those particular areas of mental health counseling?
Well, I think like many of us, we also have our own personal journey. So when I was 16, my brother died in a car accident, and that really spiraled a lot in my
Mm.
family. So many things happened, after that horrific tragedy. And one of the things that happened was that grief really showed up in my body. And the way that I only knew how to deal with it at the time was to try to control what I could put into my mouth and what I wouldn't put into my mouth. And so I really
Mhm.
became hyper focused on my body. And I think underlying that, before my brother had passed away, I really struggled with body image. I wouldn't say I had an eating disorder per se, but I definitely struggled with body image and feeling comfortable and feeling safe in my body. And so the eating disorder became really severe, and I developed full bulimia nervosa and
Mm.
anorexia nervosa, and really vacillated between those two eating disorders. And eventually I went and got help, and so thankful for my therapist that really helped me. But also I know from myself and my journey, I came across an article on the internet, and I wish I could thank this woman and I can't because I don't know who she is, but she said,
Yeah.
you need to love the body that you are in right now. And that was just such a foreign concept to me, because everything that I had understood about body image, well, you love your body when you've lost the 10 pounds. You love your body when
Right.
it looks thinner, or when it looks like the woman on the magazine, or when you have
Mhm.
short arms or a flat stomach. And it was always a journey to improve. It was never
Mhm.
good enough. My body was never good enough. Never skinny enough, never thin enough, even when I was anorexic. And so I really started to like create a life that was in alignment with not hating my body anymore. I often
Mhm.
say that during that time, all I could think about was, what am I going to eat and what am I going to do to get
Yes.
rid of it? And it was obsessive. And I was doing all the things that we see on the internet. And I really put a lot of time into healing the relationship with my body. And that lasted through my academic career. And then I realized, wow, I'm not alone. There's a lot of other people that are struggling with this.
Yeah.
And I worked at 2 college counseling centers, working a
Oh,
lot with
mhm.
young adults that were struggling. And I work with women. I mean, one of my oldest clients right now is 75, and
Oh, wow.
she struggles with, feeling confident and safe in her body and constantly is dieting, even at
Mhm.
75. So I
Mhm.
know that this is an area that a lot of women need support on and men too. And
Yeah.
so I feel very honored that I get to be a part of people's journey through the body image process.
Yeah, and thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I mean, that kind of grief is just unimaginable sometimes, and the ways that we try to figure out how to cope through that are things that we're not taught for like the adaptive coping skills side of things. And even sometimes, I share in my book when we lost our dog Buddy at 13 years old, that was a level of loss that I had personally never experienced, and I try to normalize it because I'm like, yes, here I am as a health coach, double board certified in lifestyle medicine. And like, I know all of the things that we quote unquote should be doing to cope with grief during that time. But I can tell you the first thing that I didn't go to was like a grief meditation to try and show myself compassion. Like I was reaching for my potato chips and like eating my feelings and probably drinking more alcohol than I had been in quite some time just to try to cope through those feelings. So I think it's helpful for people to hear, like, even sometimes as professionals, we struggle too, but the case is a lot less frequently than not. And just having these conversations, I feel like is really helpful. And people not feeling alone through that as well. Because even as you were sharing your story, there were bits and pieces that I could relate to. And I know that a lot of our listeners are going to relate to some of the things you shared as well. Although if we've got millennials in the house and Gen X, then it maybe wasn't like what we see on the internet. Maybe it was in like the magazines that we would
Yeah.
always see. I remember creating the actual vision board piece of it, and I look back sometimes and I'm like, oh, that was not healthy.
Oh, no, like, I had those women posted on my
Uh
refrigerator.
huh.
I would have my cabinets, taped up. I would seal up my toilet. I would do anything and everything to try to
Yep.
forbid myself from eating.
Mm-hmm.
And, I wouldn't purposely go grocery shopping. I mean, I would be doing math in my head. There were so many, I guess like tricks, if it even
Right.
consider tricks. I think it's just abuse, honestly.
Yep.
And, we would never do that to anybody that we loved, and yet
Mhm.
here I was doing that to myself, and it really was an emotionally abusive relationship that I was within myself, and really being so hard on my body, and
Mhm.
picking so much at it, pinching skin. I mean,
Yeah.
nowadays we see a lot of, selfies, but, back when I was in college and in my 20s, it was, compulsively weighing myself on my scale,
Oh yeah.
writing everything down. I mean, there's so many things, and I don't want to trigger anyone when I say these things, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm also know that these are things that we normalize, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what becomes so confusing is because, there's so much out there on the internet that says, this is wellness. You need to be taking care of your health. You need to be watching what you eat. And
Mm-hmm.
and when does it become dysfunctional? When does
Right.
it become a problem? And truly the area in my field that we identify it becoming a problem is when it interferes with your life, meaning
Mm-hmm.
your ability to, your ability to just function daily, to your sleep, to your relationships, to
Right.
your work, to your academia, if you're a student, or your sport, if you're an athlete. So
Uh-huh.
when that starts to become an area where it is interfering, that is when we know there's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. Many women that I know will go all day, barely eating, and then come home, and then they're, trying to, numb out from the day, from all the
Right.
stress that typically they'll eat or they'll overeat at night,
Mm-hmm.
and then they'll feel guilty about it, and then they'll set up, some type of deficit. Well, now I have to really watch what I eat the next day, and I
Right.
have to
Oh,
monitor
been there.
what I'm eating. And so there's this whole cycle that we go through, that really sets us up to
Mm-hmm.
to deprive ourselves and also then overeat. And we're not mindful. We're not in tune. And it's awful. It's an awful place to be. And I have such empathy for
Yeah.
anyone that's in that.
Yeah, and it's so difficult to learn how to get to that place of let's not even say loving our body as it is, but even just like accepting it and being okay with like this is the way that things are right now and what are the healthy things that I can do if I do want to make changes? Because I know that was something I experienced when I was like at my skinniest or my thinnest was I was not healthy. Like I was working night shift, running on like 4 hours of sleep. I was eating a whole bunch of processed food and like going out and partying and drinking myself silly on the weekends. But I quote unquote looked my best at that time. So I think there's that obstacle of trying to get people to understand that there's variation in body size and that's normal. And people who might look healthy might not be doing the healthiest things. And then on the flip side of that, people that quote unquote look unhealthy might be doing everything right and just struggling with a little bit of a bigger body size. And that's okay too. So I really love that you shared that quote. And that's definitely one that I want to try to embody myself. But I think people sometimes forget the intricacies between how closely our physical and mental health are linked. So, would you mind sharing a little bit about what you hope the audience will walk away from today's podcast episode, learning and understanding about how body image, eating patterns, and things like that play into an overall healthy lifestyle?
Yeah, well, there's a lot, and I think back to your point, health doesn't have a look, and eating
Hmm.
disorders don't have a size,
Hmm.
right? So even when I was at my thinnest, people were complimenting me on
Yeah.
my thin body, and yet I was in the throes of my eating disorder.
Hmm.
So we can never tell how healthy someone is by looking at them. That's why before and
Exactly.
afters are mean nothing. They give me no information,
Mm-mm.
and truly neither does the number on the scale. The only way, and this is something I do require when I'm working with anyone that is coming to see me for an eating disorder, I need a blood test. I need to know what's going on with your
Yeah.
blood panel, and I need to see
Yes.
what nutrients or vitamins are deficient, or where your cholesterol is, your lipids, or what's going on with your red blood cell count. I mean, there's so
Uh-huh.
many things to take in consideration. I mean, even myself, I look and appear extremely healthy, and yet I have horrific anemia, and it is something
Mm.
that's caused me so much fatigue and problems that, I mean,
Yeah.
thankfully, I'm finally getting this under control, but it took years for me to get there. But no
Hmm.
one would ever know that looking at me,
Of
and
course not.
that's that we don't know what we don't know by looking at someone. So that's where I always tell people, stay away from the social media that is promoting gimmicks and tricks,
Right.
these really horrible, behavioral patterns, because they can really be ineffective and harmful in the long run. The main thing you want to do is really take care of your nervous system, and that's part of creating a relationship with your body image is to really get clear about when I feel most anxious. Is it before I'm eating? Is it while I'm eating? Is it after I'm eating? And understand how we can take care of your nervous system. So I just was talking with a client of mine the other day, and she struggles right before she's about to eat. And so we talked about using humming. Humming is a very helpful coping skill to help
Oh, wow.
signal from our brain to our vagus nerve that runs down to our gut that I am safe, that I
Mm.
don't need to be in a state of fear or there's no threat to my nervous system. So, humming, just being able to hum while she's in the kitchen, getting the food plated is something she can do. Another
Mm.
thing is to really start working on grounding exercises. So, using
Mm.
mindfulness in the five senses. What am I seeing? What am I touching? What am I hearing? And going through those as you are eating, staying less distracted, meaning like I'm not going to be watching TV, I'm not going to be on my phone, I'm going to be tasting and actually chewing and asking myself, is what I'm eating satisfying?
Mm.
Satisfaction is a word that many of us get away from, when we're dieting. It's not about
Right.
satisfaction, it's about calories and getting
Hmm.
protein or optimization of whatever we're eating. And so we lose the joy of eating. So moving towards satisfaction and ask myself, is this really what I want to eat? Because research does show if we don't actually feed our bodies what we really truly want to eat, we're more likely to set ourselves up for a binge and eat the thing that we were forbidding ourselves, but we'll eat more other
Right.
things in order to get that need met. So
Mm-hmm.
really important that we are also understanding, what are my hunger cues? What are my satiation cues? Working with a young girl right now who's an athlete who has suffered from bulimia for many years. It's affecting well, she's more prone to injury, and she suffered an injury
Right.
this year. And so we need to get back her strong and get her to a place where her nutrition is as important for her athletic abilities. And so really looking at when she's hungry versus starving, and
Mm-hmm.
when she's satisfied, like where she has satiation versus I'm overeating.
Yeah.
Right. So allowing ourselves to understand, where we are, and the hunger and fullness scale is also very important. So I really come in from an intuitive eating place,
Mm.
working with the relationship with food, and helping them also get connected to a registered dietitian who is going
Yeah.
to set up the meal plan, to help a person struggling.
I think that's so important to highlight, like, our relationship with food and how we eat food, because there are so many times that people are distracted and we don't even pay attention to those hunger cues. And that can be the first step in making sustainable changes. And I love the fact that you brought up actually enjoying your food and like what you find satisfying, because nutritious food doesn't have to suck. Like, it can be nutritious and delicious.
Yeah. Yeah. I love my Mexican. I mean, no one's ever unhappy with chips
Yes.
and salsa.
Right?
So
Oh my gosh.
I've been
Like,
getting all the chips and salsa.
all you can eat taco buffet would be my dream. Like,
So good. So good.
but absolutely. And even highlighting how when we try to restrict or deprive ourselves of things, that can lead to a binge, and then we kind of fall in that all or nothing mindset trap of like, oh my gosh, I ruined everything, like I might as well just keep going on down this crash course, instead of recognizing like, oh, how did I get myself here, and what can I do differently to avoid that in the future, and really using that as a learning opportunity instead of trying to shame, blame, and guilt ourselves into a shame spiral. So I love that you highlighted those. And I really hope people are listening and just kind of processing how this might relate to their own experience as well. So, as we're kind of looking at some of these different strategies for being able to improve our relationship with food and our body image and things like that, what are some things that we can do to help ourselves feel more empowered in starting to take those first next steps?
It's interesting because a lot of times in my work with women, uh, they are such people pleasers, right? I mean, we've learned to be so agreeable, to put others' needs, wants before our own. And so a lot of women don't even really know like what they want,
Mm,
right? And what they
yep.
need, because they've always been focused on being agreeable.
Right.
And so I would say it's really getting to know yourself, really getting to know
Mm,
like, who am I and what do I want for me and what makes sense for me, whether you are a mother or a wife or on your own. I think it shows up in all areas because we see that
yeah.
a lot in the workplace as well. Um, so I like when women tap into the feelings that we aren't necessarily allowed to have culturally, because we get labeled being a bitch, or
Hmm.
she's dramatic, or she's too much.
Right.
So I welcome the frustration, the anger, the rage, the the types of emotions that typically women are put down for having. We're
Hmm.
much more like, allowed to have sadness or allowed to be in our softer emotions, which are very important. But also, I think it's important for us to be able to be in those masculine emotions and have a
Right.
safe place to talk about, the hurt and the pain and the rage about what's happened in our lives. So I really try to help women to feel safe in their anger and find ways to express their anger.
Mm,
Um, and that can look different for everybody. I have one woman I'm working with right now, and so she took up boxing because
nice.
she's been holding on to that anger for so much. I'm like, you need to go hit something,
Yes.
So, she's boxing now and she's loving it. And I have another woman that, for her, actually slowing down helps her get more in touch with her anger. So she is more, doing meditation, and she's working on morning intention and nighttime reflection, which is
Mm.
kind of like a journal exercise I do a lot with my clients to help them kind of set up the day and
Oh
then
yeah.
how to reflect upon the day, the nighttime reflection. So I think everyone's just a little bit different. So again, it's getting to know your nervous system and really what you need.
Mm.
For some of us, we need to be in that more activated kind of fight or flight. And then for other people, we need to be more in that freeze response where we're taking care of ourselves, and we've got a cozy blanket, we're sitting
Mhm.
with a book, we've got a candle going, and figuring out what works for you. And that's also part of the journey of therapy, is understanding yourself. So I think
Right.
how we can feel empowered is being able to say yes to ourselves, and being
Mhm.
comfortable with saying no to the things or to the people that are taking us away and from ourselves, and not going into self-abandonment, but actually being able to stay with the parts of ourselves that have been showing up that we really need to pay attention to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that we kind of touched on this experience and some of the cultural norms for women, but you did also mention working with men in
Yeah.
like more of the sexual health
Yeah.
capacity. So what are some of the ways that they might be able to kind of work through that shame or embarrassment that might come up with seeking help from someone like you, who's like a beautiful woman, and they're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? But even just from a general perspective, like how do we help them recognize the importance of taking that step to get themselves help for something that they might be experiencing like that?
Yeah, it's interesting. So people don't realize that actually my work was first with men before
Oh,
women.
okay.
So I worked for at least 10 years at a private practice before I opened up my own, where I worked specifically with sexual health for
Hmm.
men. So I talked a lot about infidelity and
Hmm.
pornography and compulsive masturbation, and really in sexual health and body image, because those were always
Yeah.
intertwined into all those. And really with my work with men, I mean, I'm a pretty direct therapist. So I don't tolerate flirting. I don't tolerate
Hmm.
inappropriate behavior. And I actually think it's really important that men understand boundaries when talking to women that they might find
Yeah.
attractive, and how inappropriate it is to do some of the things that they've been doing. So I'm
Right.
not in, I really, I'm not intimidated by men. It's never been
Hmm.
something that I personally have struggled with, but I have a lot of sensitivity, and compassion for women who are. And
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
I'm all about empowering women for whatever that looks like for that woman's journey, and making sure men hold boundaries and are respectful. So
Yes.
I
Love
think
that.
that's really important. And I think that's why I probably lasted 10 years and then practiced.
Yeah.
You get real close real soon, and you learn a lot.
Right, right.
But I now in my own practice, I really appreciate the men that I work with. I mean,
Mm.
they struggle too. They struggle with feeling confident in themselves,
And
knowing.
just being vulnerable,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Being vulnerable, how to communicate, understanding their if they're in a heterosexual relationship, their wives' needs.
Hmm.
And so that's kind of where I advocate a lot for the wives. And I'm like, listen, you have to start like noticing what she's doing, and
Right.
stop just taking everything for granted, and the mental labor that women carry, that mental
Right.
load, right?
Hmm.
That they carry. So I feel like I try to really be an advocate for both when I'm working with men,
Yeah.
and really just honing in on how they can be more, again, confident. I mean,
Hmm.
I know that there's a lot of talk right now about, men's loneliness, and
Hmm.
sure, men that
Hmm.
are lonely, and women are too. I mean,
Right.
we've just been dealing with it a lot longer. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
so I think it's really important to be able to create that safe space for both genders. So I try to do my
Hmm.
best there.
I love that so much because yeah, even though there's cultural and gender norms that are found that kind of like shape each person's experience, it ultimately does boil down to the individual and having them create some time and space and inquiry about, who they really are, what their needs are, how do their choices affect their loved ones, and everything like that. And that was a piece of content that I saw you share recently that I was just like, yes, we're breaking the generational cycles, because you had a post talking about how to have body neutral conversations with children. And I think now more than ever, that's going to be so important, because throwing social media in the game, and you already talked about kind of cultivating your feeds to promote better wellness there on the types of content that you're consuming. But also now we're throwing AI in the game, and it can generate these picture perfect images and videos and things like that. So really focusing on how can we educate the upcoming generation to kind of avoid those pitfalls that we might have fallen into in our younger years, but also like how do we prepare them for things that even we don't know about yet?
Yeah. So one of the things I like being able to teach my younger clients is media literacy. I don't
Yes.
know about you, but it wasn't something like if it was in print, it was like, oh, it must be true, right? And then
Exactly.
took it for granted because
Hmm.
it was in print, and that's obviously not the case. There's so
Right.
many, like fear messaging, all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So I really try to teach. I have a 13-year-old, and she's my daughter, and then I have two boys, 11 and 10. So they're on. I would say my daughter's on social media, but for me, and this is what worked for our family, and I'm not suggesting other families have to do this, but
Hmm.
I made it like if you want to be on social media, you have to create a business. So
Mm.
you have to sell something. You have to make money. You have to either donate to a nonprofit or start your savings account. Like this is the
Yeah.
only way. We're not doing TikTok dances on social media. It's just my daughter's not a dancer. We don't need to be doing that. Now I get someone's got that type of background with a cheerleader or actual
Right.
ballerina. Sure, absolutely. But
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
my daughter's not that. So for her, I was like, you need to start to learn how to, have a business. And so she did. She created two businesses so far, and they've been great. And we've been able to give back to the community
That's
and
amazing.
taught her
Yeah.
like how to address social media and how to have, again,
Right.
boundaries around social media and media literacy with
Hmm.
content that she's seen. But what's really interesting is that my son is a very big, he's an athlete. And,
Hmm.
that right now for boys, it's really big to have like these, athletic accounts. And I
Hmm.
managed his social media. And in his DMs, he already got some probably AI bot that was very sexual
Ugh.
in reaching out to him to engage in some type of conversation. And I, thank goodness I monitor it, I run it, but
Right.
I was thinking, holy cow, what if I did it and he saw
Right.
this? I mean,
Hmm.
that's scary. I mean, that's
Yeah.
a really, really scary thing for an adolescent boy to be subjected to. So
Hmm.
I know we talk a lot about girls and what they are exposed to, but I really think it's also important that we recognize what our boys are exposed to.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And maybe it's because I was so focused on my daughter that she's so confident in her body image. Like it's such a great thing to see. And my boy, my older son, he does struggle with that confidence. And so we
Mm-hmm.
work with that. It's
Yeah.
okay to look different. It's okay to wear your hair different. You be you and
Right.
really find his own kind of voice in his appearance and how to express himself. So I try to remind parents it's not just our girls, it's our
Hmm.
boys as well that really need us
Yes.
to support them and help them feel confident.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, those experiences can be so different through those formative years. And I mean, regardless, we need that educational component to help them best prepare and protect themselves. And like you said, this is kind of new territory for us as well, because this kind of stuff wasn't around when we were their age. So learning how to navigate that through parenthood. Luckily my cat has an account, so I don't have human kids. I don't have to worry about that right now. But yeah, that's definitely, concerning to hear that at such a young age the bots are already getting in the DMs and things like that. So
Well, and I don't
um
know if you saw on my Instagram, but speaking of animal accounts, so there was an account that this, I'm going to say high school student, this girl had of her dogs.
mhm,
And it was a very big account. Her dogs are a beautiful breed. I honestly don't know off the top of my head what breed it was, but
sure.
they're gorgeous dogs, right?
Yeah.
And
I probably follow them.
yeah, probably, right. Well, she was standing in her homecoming dress next to her dogs and giving the dog a
Oh
hug.
no.
Well, men went on into the comments and made very sexual, inappropriate comments about her body.
Oh my
And
God. Oh my God.
her
Oh my God.
boyfriend helped her identify who these men were. And one of them was a father.
Oh.
And he reshared who these men were. So I reshared that post to
Hmm.
one, bring awareness that it doesn't just happen to accounts that, we, again, like, she's with her dogs
Right.
and,
In a homecoming dress.
homecoming dress, like,
Ugh.
and just hugging the dog, and very, very sexually inappropriate
Mm.
comments. And so this, people are like, well, why don't you just keep your kids' accounts private? And we can. And yet, like, this can still happen on animal accounts,
Mhm.
right?
Ugh.
So, I mean, we don't victim blame. We
Right.
put we
Right.
put the accountability and the responsibility
That part.
on the person that is offending, right?
Mhm.
Put that on the offender. And
Mhm.
so it's really, really important that we recognize that this can happen to any account.
Right.
Um, we have to be vigilant about it. And I felt
Mhm.
my heart broke for her, really did.
Yeah. Oh, I know, because you can't erase those kinds of
No.
comments from your mind, you know. Our lovely negativity bias will always be there for us,
Yeah.
and it those seeds are already planted now, and so trying to overcome that or try to forget that they were said is going to be so challenging. So sending her lots of love too. I had no idea. That's so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So I love that we were able to kind of touch on the social media boundaries piece of it and how we can even utilize that to not only help ourselves feel more empowered as we might be working through our own body image issues and healing our relationship with our bodies, our nervous system, food, how that impacts our kids and other people in our lives as well. So as we're kind of getting to the end of this conversation, we like to think about ways that we can engage in next steps in making positive change. So as our listeners are kind of processing everything that we've covered so far, from body image to disordered eating and eating disorders to social media and how that impacts mental health, and we've just talked about so many good things already today. What would be some of the either resources that you would want people to maybe seek out next if they're looking at intuitive eating or wanting to connect with a registered dietitian or a mental health counselor to help support them in this process? Or are there any resources that maybe you have available that they might be able to engage in and take advantage of as well?
Yeah. So I really am a big advocate for psychoeducation through my Instagram account. And so I post a bunch of information on there. And then I also have resources that you can download for free that are available on my website. So I'm
Amazing.
sure that'll be in the show notes.
Yes, I will link everything in there.
And then I also have a couple online courses that people can take, one of them being on intuitive eating and how
Oh,
to get your
nice.
life back when it's been, if you've been someone who's really been a chronic dieter like I used to be, or just struggling with, disordered eating in general.
Mhm.
Getting into intuitive eating there's 10 principles, and it gives us a framework of what we can do to help ourselves. So that can be really important to do. As far as therapists go, the best way to find a therapist in your area is to go on to Psychology Today, a
Yes.
very large platform that has a lot of, different therapists and their bios and then their theories and all the things. So that would be a good resource for individuals that are looking to start therapy. And you
Mhm.
don't have to be sick enough to start therapy. I think that's the biggest.
Preach.
Right? Like, you can just I mean, I've been seeing some people for, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years, and, we'll go maybe once a month or, like, quarterly.
Mhm.
I love seeing some of the girls I used to work with, let's say, when they were in college, and now they're in their 30s and
Right.
they're crushing it. I mean,
Mhm.
it's wonderful, and so I love all my clients. I feel so incredibly blessed and honored to be working with the people. Like, I love coming to work, and I love being able to I don't even think of it as work now that I'm saying it. I love coming to my office. It's
Yeah.
like my safe place. So, you really want to work with a therapist that you feel safe with. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter the letters behind their name. It doesn't
Hmm.
matter what theory. If you don't feel safe and comfortable and have that connection, it's just not going to work. So go with someone that you feel safe and connected to and you feel you can be
Yes.
real with, because that's what it's for. And yes, I would with other like self-love doesn't cost anything. So, taking a deep breath, going for a walk, getting outside, listening to music, humming, dancing in your kitchen, taking a bath, a cold shower, lighting a candle, whatever it is. Like, baking a box of brownies,
Yes.
that's what you need. Like the other night, my husband's like, I really want a cookie. I'm like, let's make cookies. It's not gonna
Yes.
do it. And we use the real butter and we used all the
Oh,
sugar.
the good stuff.
Let's really
Yeah.
enjoy your cookies. So whatever makes your heart happy is what I would say do for yourself.
Oh my gosh. And I love that you went on that rant about like the therapist and you have to feel safe with them, because I say that all the time when I talk to people who have maybe had like a bad experience with
Yeah, I
like
mean, I know
trying
I
to
have.
seek therapy. Right. I
You
know.
know,
Me
I'm
too.
like, well,
I'm like, sometimes you have to shop around
you
for
do.
like a therapist that you click with. And I do love Psychology Today because a lot of times they have like the videos, and you can kind of get a
Yeah.
sense for, the person's vibe and things like that. But a quick little educational moment for maybe our listeners who haven't sought out therapy before. Um, the counselors, therapists are licensed in different states. So make sure that you look for someone who is licensed in your state. And Dr. Morgan, what states are you licensed in case we have any listeners tuning in that might want to work with you?
I am just Arizona.
That's
I am
okay.
just Arizona. And you know, I it's funny because our board just said, "Hey, you can get licensed in Ohio as well if you have an Arizona license." And I'm actually from Ohio, so I was like,
Oh,
"Oh, maybe that might work." But I'm so saturated here in Arizona that
sure.
I'm like, I don't know if I want to venture out into another state right now.
Right.
I'm like I'm a waiting list. So I'm like,
Yeah, you're good to go. I love
okay.
that.
Job security, very much. So
Yeah.
I'm so
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Well, Dr. Morgan, we like to ask our guest experts as kind of like a final closing question. What does healthy living doesn't have to suck mean to you, and or how do you bring it into your own life and work?
well, I bring it into my life and work with gratitude. I
Mm,
have a lot of gratitude for, like I said a moment ago, like my clients, my office space, my children's well being and their health, my husband's devotion and commitment to our family.
yeah.
Um, I have a dog named Buddy. It's funny you said Buddy.
Oh my, I was gonna ask what your
Buddy.
dog's name
Yes.
was.
And
Black Lab
so
Buddy.
I got
Oh,
Buddy, yes. And so he
oh
is
man.
my joy. I mean,
Yes.
it's just been a gift from God. And our dogs, I had
Oh,
two
they
Grace
are.
Mountain dogs that passed away. So when you said you lost
Mm,
your dog, like oh my gosh, it is the most painful thing to ever go through.
yeah,
And dogs are they're everything. I mean, all
they
animals
they
are,
really are.
but
Yeah.
I'm
I know
like,
I'm a cat mom now. Never
yes,
thought I
yes,
would be the
yes.
cat mom that I am today, but Jackie, I mean, he's like a little dog cat, so
Oh, that's so cute. So yeah, I mean, I think it's that. It's the
yeah.
gratitude. And I have so much gratitude for my dog and just my friendships. And so for me, I know that gratitude helps all of us to feel less anxious, to helps us feel safe, and it does
Mhm.
wonders for our neurochemistry. So I really practice a lot of gratitude.
Yeah. And I think even from you sharing about like the things that you do in your work, it's really helping people to discover and tap into that gratitude for their bodies as it is right now.
Yes, absolutely. And just
Mhm.
appreciating, I really teach a lot of my clients. There's three pillars of bonding with respect, appreciation, and trust. And really
Mm,
helping them to develop each one of those is really important in the work that I do. And that's the work that I do for myself. So really
yeah.
appreciating my body, showing up every day, given my severe anemia and getting through it. And yeah,
Right.
you find this appreciation when you really start to, again, like and neutralize that body image. And
Mhm.
it's so important.
That's such a beautiful way to wrap up this episode. Dr. Morgan, thank you again so much for sharing your time, your energy, your knowledge with us. I know the listeners are going to get a lot of great value from listening in today. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's been really great. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Well, changemakers, in the spirit of gratitude, again, sending so much gratitude to our special guest, Dr. Morgan, today. I will make sure to include all of the things that we talked about in the show notes so it can be easy access for you to engage in your next steps with all of these amazing and helpful resources. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to share it with friends and family that you know who may be struggling with some of the things that you feel you're struggling with as well, helping them to better understand what you might be going through or helping them to work through their own things as well. So with that being said, keep it real, stay positive, and appreciate your body today, changemakers. We'll catch you next time. As a quick, friendly reminder, the information in these podcasts are always strictly for educational purposes only. Thanks so much for listening, changemakers. And if you can please remember to head to your favorite podcast platform and subscribe, rate, and review. It will help this podcast reach other changemakers so they can start listening and tuning in each week.